Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and once again it is time for an upper body day and a couple minor changes in my exercise variations today. Realize I probably should add a little bit of delt work in. Looking at things like total tricep volume, I'm doing 10 sets of pressing every upper body day, plus there's probably a little long head activation on the pull-ups. So really I want to just get 5 high quality sets of Skullcrushers in, and I feel like that really is enough. I'm going to just keep hammering down on biceps. Biceps are going to be really a highest priority because when I look at the tricep volumes are crazy high. Right? They're crazy high, especially with all the pressing. As long as I keep pumping that volume on it and I really push the Skullcrushers hard for that different angle, it should be good. And I really feel like, just looking at things, my biceps need the most work, almost to the point where I feel like I could throw a chin up in, other than I just don't want to pull pull-ups out because they do so much for my lats and for my shoulder health right now. I don't want to take them out. All right, so looking at what's going on with the benching, haven't done the touch and go benching. I like the touch and go benching quite a bit, but I feel like if I'm gonna not pause on the bench, I might as well use the McDonald bar. And the reason for it, because I can't touch my chest with it, okay? So I'm still getting a full, the most possible stretch reflex for very similar ranges of motion. I've assessed it, and some people are like, oh, it's not going deeper, other than look at where my chest is. And you guys have seen the same angle with a flat bench. I'm about 1 inch deeper, approximately an inch. Okay, and that's pretty much my range of motion, and I also know that from having messed with the Buffalo bar. So I'm like, if I'm going to chase a stretch reflex on it, let's do that, because I had actually pretty intense DOMs the last time I used that bar, right? For 5 sets, pretty intense DOMs. All right, for the pull-ups, what I'm doing the thumbs over at this point, going really, really wide, because again, I seem to be able to get the deepest stretch on the lats when I do that. It allows me to fully turn the elbows out more. And, some people, again, they always point out, is that full range of motion at the bottom? Yeah, it is, because watch my scapula. My arms don't lock completely out. People probably realize that. I don't know why they don't, but I don't feel like having to address it all the time. I've proven it on camera. It's just a matter of what angle you guys are seeing me do it from. All right. So that aside, I'm taking the scapula into a full stretch. And then you'll notice the final reps when I do the pull-ups, I'm swinging at the bottom. I'm clearly in a dead hang sometimes. So not going to argue it any further. All right, but these really, really light my lats up. Really lights my lats up. I really feel the rear delts a lot on this too. So again, the idea here is this is really my best LinkedIn position exercise. Really is. But people can argue with me all they want. You always get people who are like, oh, I don't like the way you do back stuff, but then my back is my best muscle group. And as I get leaner, people will realize it more, because I definitely still have, when I did the last water cut, my V-taper was ridiculous once the water sucked down all that area in the low back. So as we continue to lose body fat, which is coming along, I feel like in this footage today, it's like, man, I'm a little leaner than I was, in December. I think it's starting to become a little visible. We've lost some body fat. Okay. So it's continuing along, and I'm going to keep hammering body composition, particularly upper body. Lower body, I'm going to do a little bit of heavy work, mainly because I just need it. I need it. I'll admit it, I need it for my contentment. I need to do a little heavy pulling. Plus, those power squats felt good, but we're keeping the overall volumes very, very high, and most of the reps very high. Doing about 4 moderately heavy lower body sets. Upper body, though, I'm trying to keep stuff 10 or more. Now, if I fall short, it's going to happen. It'll happen probably, but I managed to get 10 on everything. And this is the first day that I've actually done 5 full sets of 10 with the McDonald bar with 225. So I feel like that's at least some progress there. The pec stretch was phenomenal. I've just got to find that best sweet spot for my incline, which I'll talk about as we get further in. Because that is a problem sometimes, is again, range of motion and being able to touch my chest can be a little difficult at times on the incline, but I'm getting better at it. And I went with a more medium grip on it today for the first 4 sets, and I didn't feel the same pec stretch. I felt a ton of pec activation on the way back up, but I didn't feel the deep stretch in certain parts of the upper chest that I get when I go a little wider. In the final set, I went wide, and sure enough, I got there. I felt it. So it's just going to be a question of making sure I can warm up that way. Part of me is considered trying to do the McDonald bar and then not caring. Not caring at all if I touch the chest, just get the deepest stretch. And that might be an option eventually. I feel like there's so much range of motion for me anyways on the incline because of my arm length and everything else. But yeah, if you guys notice, I'm doing about a medium grip up. My pinkies are about 1 inch inside the rings for the first 4 sets. And it made touching easy, but I didn't get the deep stretch. I mean, let me rephrase that. I got a deep stretch. I know that I can get a deeper stretch than this when I go a hair wider. And it's where I feel the difference is I feel a lot of the middle part, right? All the sternum and the hole and all the way about, 2/3 of the way towards the edge of the pec and the upper pec when I do that medium. But there's just something about that wide grip that makes me feel the entire upper chest all the way from the sternum all the way over to my armpits. All right, I decided to do my bent over rows as Yates rows today. And yes, I stood on a plate just in case the stretch gets too low, even doesn't look like it is. I'm like, let's just not risk it. Let's try to get a good stretch. These felt good. Grip can be a little bit difficult on these, but here's the thing that I'm thinking about with it. I want the longest ranges of motion possible on the lats. Okay? I want that long range of motion, but let's try to continue to get a little bit of bicep work in. And I feel like my rows don't contribute enough to my biceps, and I felt a little bit of arm activation there today. But I get a deep lat stretch on those too. I've done supine rows before in the past. My only concern is that if you try to go too heavy on them, I do think that people are prone to bicep injuries. But if we don't try to go crazy heavy and we just chase a good pump and a good stretch, I think it's a little more reasonable. Because again, that's not a heavy weight. You guys have seen me pen lay row 250 for 10 or 12 actually before off the floor. And again, you guys see me walking away there when I've got a belt on there. That is my normal arms down. It's always funny, I get that it's people don't realize when I do certain things with curls. I'm like, dudes, that is my arms down. Sorry. But again, we see it quite well there. And I've also demonstrated that before by doing shrugs and stuff with my arms in front of me from the back, and they realize my lats just flare out. They flare out even further when I put my arms down because I have to rotate my arms forward to do it. So I've got back development, right? You can see it even on the incline. People notice that, the lats on the incline. My lats are not lacking. But, I want the rows to contribute a little bit to my biceps too. Let's just keep working all those angles. Biceps, biceps, biceps. Because I've worked so much other stuff and I've neglected the biceps to a certain extent, I'm just going to keep making them a priority. We want everything to grow, but I'm going to take the bicep volume above. Everything else is going to get only about 20 sets a week, which is high volume. But we'll test some of this hypothesis with arm work. I'm going to do a few curls and some good curls on the off days too. Just some dumbbells in my office. I'm messing a little more with the sort of curls you guys see me doing on camera with the dumbbells though in the office now. So I'm going from a hammer grip and supinating the wrist up towards the face, just trying to again work as much range of motion as possible on it. But yeah, good lat pump there, and it's like you can definitely see it once I finish those. Those felt actually good. It's always funny. Everyone's like, you always say rows feel good. All right. Yes, every type of row I ever do, I'm always like, man, that felt great in my back. Like, it doesn't matter if it's a strict row, a cheat row, a pen lay row, a bent over row, doing a Yates row. You're always like, dumbbell rows. You're like, oh yeah, I got a good pump in my lats. And I have big lats. Is this a coincidence? Probably not. I'm able to really activate my lats on any type of row. That came up in the comments too this morning. Someone said, well, you were talking about stretch position, but you did tons of pen lay rows and it built your lats. Yeah, but I get a stretch in my lats on the pendulum. When I touch the floor, my lats are fully extended. My scapula spread apart on those. Okay? So they still put a stretch position. But I really like these because look at that stretch. We're getting a real good range of motion, right? And because I bring it up to the chest, I try to bring it to the chest, not down to the stomach. It's one reason I bend over more. Trying to chase that range of motion and then get that stretch. And I'm hoping that'll do lats and biceps even more. Again, I want my biceps to grow. Absolutely highest priority. And, people can laugh about that all they want. I mean, in what world are we in where Blaha's over here talking about I got to tighten my waistline up, I got to get all of it super tight, get shredded, and build my biceps. And I'm not trying to get contest lean, guys. That's come up to you. Look, I think 10%, maybe a hair under would be good to go for. And I don't even know what I'm at. I do not know my body fat. I'm not even going to try to guess it. Let's just keep getting leaner. But until that whole low back tightens up, I'm not where I need to be. Okay? So that's kind of what we're shooting for. Yes, there's loose skin, but I know from the water cuts that when I suck all the stuff out of that area, even when it's dehydration, the skin all sucks in. That loose skin 90% disappears. Okay? And I'm also thinking with the amount of antioxidants in my diet, all the collagen synthesis and benefits I'm going to get from some of that, I think that's going to help continue to tighten it up. My antioxidants are through the roof, eating mostly whole foods, mostly plant-based. I think that's going to help continue with the skin quality. I'm thinking, because I'm noticing my psoriasis is managing quite a bit better. All right, that's a game changer for me. All right, that's a game changer for me. For me, any dietary change that helps with my psoriasis is an enormous quality of life improver. Okay. And again, that's originally why I started shaving the head. And I still get people who make a big deal about that. I'm like, I'm partially bald, sure. At this point, yeah, but I still have to shave my head. I still have over half my hair, and I have psoriasis. I have to shave it. And that's another point. I just banned an idiot for that. Say, well, if you considered a hair transplant, and I'm like, you guys know that I do this because of my psoriasis. Like, a hair transplant would be the last thing in the world I would want to do. Because I have to shave off what I have left. Why would I want to fill it back in just so I can shave it? That doesn't make any sense. Like I don't even understand. That's why I'm shaving my beard off. I love having a beard. I don't like shedding like a snake and leaving 1-inch patches of psoriasis, dead skin all over the place. So I'm hoping the changes in the diet will help with that. All right, curls, I went stricter today. I am keeping with that nice wide grip because it gives me a different angle than the dumbbells. Okay? It gives me a different angle. It does work, change the emphasis a little bit, and I'm able to get a really good stretch at the bottom with that wider grip. I feel a really deep stretch at the bottom. Another reason I lean forward slightly for that. I'm trying to get the biceps through the longest range of motion possible. And the people who note that I bring the elbows forward, let's understand why. Long head of the bicep, what is part of its function? To rotate the shoulder forward for the first 30 degrees. Okay? So we want the elbows to lock as much as we can at the bottom, right? And we want the elbow to shift forward towards there. Just like, notice how many preacher benches are set at that angle. Do you think that's coincidence? The ones that really work. Think that's a coincidence? No. Because that's part of the function of the bicep is in that position. So the idea of all my curling I'm doing is to really try to work as much bicep as possible. The reason I go all the way down, I lock my elbow lock. Again, where I feel the joint lock. I do move the shoulder forward. And the idea is to work the biceps as hard as possible, through as many functions as possible. And I got a great pump on these today. Like I was very, very happy with the stretch and then the pump that I got on my biceps. My biceps were throbbing at the end of every set. Okay, I'm happy with that because I have to keep them growing, and they're going to grow by training them as hard as possible. Okay, so and again, look at the angles involved. I'm actually curling up to where my forearm touches the bicep at the bottom. And I'm locking at the bottom. We're trying to do the fullest range of motion while still having that extra shoulder movement that is a critical part of finishing off the biceps. You know, we could argue about the supine, the supination actual movement. It's a debate as to whether that can stimulate growth, but that is one of the functions. So what does the bicep do? Bicep obviously flexes the elbow. So if we take the elbow through its longest possible flexion, that's the primary function. All right, it also rotates the shoulder forward, one of the heads does. Rotates the shoulder forward 30 degrees. Okay, so we want to go take the curls there, and then there is that supination of the wrist action, which we're also doing on the dumbbells. You see where we're going with this? Is very systematic. I am trying to make sure that my biceps are completely and thoroughly worked and pretty much exhausted at every range of motion. Every function, I am trying to make sure that every single last muscle fiber in my biceps gets worked, because that's the only way they're going to catch up. Okay, so I also have that previous injury in the left one. I've lost some tissue there, so I'm at a disadvantage. I have long arms, it puts me at a disadvantage. So how do we get around that? We work smarter and work harder. So tons of bicep work. For the triceps, I noticed I got more reps today. I got anywhere from 12 up to about 15 doing the Skullcrushers. I pushed them hard, and I hit failure on the last set. You guys will see me fail. I go to lower it, and it just dry, and I have to push it back towards my chest because I can't actually finish the eccentric. So we reached true failure, and it was with less reps than a couple of my sets got. So the idea here, rocking it back towards the face to get that extra stretch on the long head. Okay, and I got, again, a very, very good pump. I was very happy with the tricep work today, and I feel like with all that was a set I hit failure. I feel like with all the pressing, the triceps are getting a very, very good workload. And we could argue all day long as to whether I need more tricep or bicep, but again, my triceps are also getting worked through every function because we're doing all that pressing. It's 20 sets of pressing a week from 2 different angles. Lateral head's getting hammered hard. The long head gets some stretch on the pull-ups, and then we're really going in and hammering everything with those Skullcrushers and making sure we're getting that stretch to make sure that long head gets that extra work, again, that it may be missing from the pressing, making sure it gets finished off. And again, trying to work every function possible. All right, dumbbell curls. I struggled with reps on these today. I don't think I got more than about 13. I think the last set only got about 10. Because I did all that other work. I feel like between the stricter curls today and then doing those supine grip, my biceps were toast by the time I got to these. These sets hurt, but I'm like, I have to do them. We have to finish it off. And with this, I noticed I tried to do the dumbbell laterals with these. I got like 10 and then 8. I dropped these. I went down to plates. I went down to just 10-pound plates and did plate raises afterwards. Right, because these dumbbells were almost too heavy. And again, it's because I did all the rowing. We did all that incline benching. So when you think about the interior head, it got 10 sets already. Absolutely 10 sets. We can argue about the side head from all this stuff, especially the pulling. Wide grip pull-ups hit the posterior delts pretty hard. All rows hit the posterior delts hard. So my delts were just trash. By the time I got there, man, they were fatigued. Like those 28-pound dumbbells were just too much. Right, they were too much. So what do? We went down to the plates. And even then, those 10-pound plates with a relatively straight arm, I was running out of steam very, very fast. I mean, I probably got like 18 or 19 for one of the sets with them. And then after that, it was like whatever, 12, 13. I lost count. I was just trying to finish the sets and just get through the burn. Okay. And it was the case of, again, this set, you could tell at 8, like my delts were done. They got a good pump there, but yeah, it's just, it's so much fatigue. So again, we're coming in just to finish them off. Why a lateral, even with a lighter weight? Because it's very long. It's very lateral head dominant. Okay? And we could argue that head does get a lot of splash over. I think especially the wider grip rowing type stuff and pull-ups. There's some data on that. But it's just not enough. And people will also ask, why stop at whatever degree up? Because I'm only concerned with the lateral head. And the lateral head at the angles I'm at, right? Slight forward lean. That and the posterior head are doing almost all the work there. Any higher than about where I'm going, and it starts to become interior delt, and my interior delts are already finished. Keeping in mind, when we say this, we're only talking about what's doing most of the work. All three heads of the delt and the upper trap get hit on this, no matter what. But I am just trying to make sure that lateral head gets completely finished off, because that's the only head that's lacking. My front and rear delts are probably going to grow extremely well from all the pressing and pulling. So again, just making sure that we're getting 5 good quality sets at the end for 10 a week for hits the lateral head, even though, again, keep in mind, it got hit with all the other stuff. It's just not direct. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to maximize muscle growth. So I need to make sure that any head of the muscles that's not being fully worked somewhere gets about 10 sets of direct work every week. That's why we do the seated calf raises for 10 sets a week, right? Make sure that soleus gets hit. Not that it doesn't get a lot of indirect work. Okay? So again, the idea is pretty straightforward here. But happy with today's workout. It took a long time. People are like, how long are these workouts taking? I mean, bros, I don't know, an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I lose track. I lose track at a certain point. I'm just trying to get the work done. And that's okay, because my career largely evolves around this. I can make the time. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.